Likely shift to a proposed swap made by the Biden administration in exchange for Brittany Griner and former Marine Paul.
Brittany Griner finds herself in a pretty terrible situation right now. She's been behind bars for 168 days. And while we're waiting for that sentencing, there is a very real chance that she could see herself behind bars for many years to come.
William, I want to get your take on something that MTS said, as well as something that you were saying. Obviously, this is taking place in the context of very poor relations between the U.S. and Russia. But as you said, Russian laws are already very strict when it comes to drugs. Do you believe that she would be treated differently if we weren't in the middle of this international conflict and these poor relations between the two countries?
That's very hard to say. Other people who have found themselves in Russian courtrooms before the Ukraine-Russia war have received significant sentences. So it is, I would think, unlikely that it would be different in terms of the actual application of Russian law.
Powerful countries who are at odds with each other. And this is a pretty extraordinary situation.
And on that note, Imtiaz, we are just hearing from President Biden, who's weighing in. He has a statement saying today American citizen Brittany Griner received a prison sentence. That is one more reminder of what the world already knew. Russia is wrongfully detaining Brittany. It is unacceptable, and I call on Russia to release her immediately so she can be with her wife, loved ones, friends, and teammates. My administration will continue to work tirelessly and pursue every possible avenue to bring Brittany and Paul Whelan home safely as soon as possible. To speak more on this, I want to bring in now Jonathan Franks. He is a spokesperson for Trevor Reed, who was freed in a prisoner swap with Russia back in April. Thanks for being here, Jonathan. We know that Trevor had also received a 9-year sentence in a Russian prison, just like the sentence that Brittany Griner has just received. Can you tell us anything more about now, as the attention is shifting to the possibility of a prisoner swap, what that would mean? And we understand that for your client, it meant for him 3 years in a Russian prison. Might Brittany Griner be looking at a substantial amount of time before this can be ironed out?
And thanks for having me. The simple answer is yes. She could be looking at a substantial period of time. I hope that's not the case. I watched her set the feed of her sentencing today.
I'm so sorry, Jonathan. As this is breaking news, we are just now hearing from a spokesperson outside of.
I attended every session of Ms. Griner's trial. We will continue to be closely engaged in this case. We will remain in frequent contact with Ms. Griner and with her legal team. Secretary of State Blinken, President Biden's national security team, and the entire American government remain committed to bringing Ms. Griner home safely to her family, friends, and loved ones. And I, as chargé d'affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, will also do my best to bring her home safely. I will continue to do everything to care for the safety and well-being of Ms. Griner and of all U.S. citizens detained in the Russian Federation. We have no higher priority. Thank you.
Is it still possible to change her?
I have no further.
We were just hearing from the chargé d'affaires for U.S. citizens saying there's no higher priority than bringing home U.S. citizens who are wrongfully detained, which is the position of the U.S. government. Jonathan, sorry to have interrupted you, but obviously with breaking news, we pivot to where the story is. Please continue when we're talking about prisoner swaps. What's next for Brittany Griner?
What's next is she could be very well transferred to prison camp. And I've been watching the so-called proceeding today with Google Translate's help. I found that proceeding absurd. There's no other way to, there was numerous pieces of irrelevant, prejudicial evidence that I'm not sure was introduced in court. A bizarre theater of the absurd today, because this has been in the can since she was charged and orchestrated from above. So I think we didn't really see a court appearance today. We saw a shellacking, and it's just absolutely horrendous. It was horrendous when it was done to Trevor Reed. It was horrendous when it was done to Paul Whelan. It was horrendous when it was done to Mark Vogel. 9 years for allegedly having the cannabis equivalent of a cigarette butt is absurd.
Jonathan, as you've watched other Americans on trial in Russia and you compare some of what you just described, what Brittany Griner's trial has looked like and what has unfolded during this time, reminding our audience that this all began a week before Russia invaded Ukraine. Have you seen any differences in Griner's, court case in the trial?
Yes, and yes, I think that the trial was higher profile. It was shorter because she pled guilty. Trevor did not plead guilty, but it does seem to me to be this, relatively similar. And I kind of, it's theater of the absurd. Nothing ever seems to matter. I mean, her lawyers put forth an excellent, case on mitigation, both her contribution to both Russian and American society, and the fact that the search didn't comply with Russian law. And that didn't seem to make a difference. I mean, 9 years seems to be the magic number for their hostage taking these days.